Hello YouTube, Ronin Kazzy. Don't have to worry about the music. I'm doing this video backwards. So recently, I did a video on Friday where I compared 5 different Arch distros and playing a game, Cyberpunk 2077. And I came to a conclusion eventually that CachyOS was probably the best for the game of all of those. So I'm thinking of an idea on Saturday and Sunday to, take another computer I have and do the same thing, put 5 different distros. This time I'm going to use Debian. Guess what I realized, YouTube? There is only one distro family you should be using. It's Arch. So number one, let's talk about something that's happened recently. I haven't talked about it, but I'm going to talk about it here. It's GNOME or GNOME or GNOME makes a desktop environment, and then they have utilities inside there. They have a calendar. On Mint, which is based on Ubuntu, which is based on a long-term 2024 snapshot, that version that's in Mint has bugs. So when people use Mint and they come across that bug, they report the bug to GNOME. GNOME is like on, and that's Roxy, who is alarmed by all this. GNOME has moved to, snapshot 50. They're on release 50, and that was like release 44 or 41, whatever release it was on that calendar. And so there's really no way to fix it. Mint saying, you fix it. Hey, your software's broken. GNOME saying, hey, we already fixed it. You have an old version of it. Why? We're not going to redo it. And they had different strategies. And then someone said, well, the real strategy to fix this is flat packing. Number 2, I don't flat pack because that puts me right into the same situation I was in Windows. Whereas the operating system updates and then apps have to update. And now I'm chasing all these apps, or the apps sit in my system tray and wait. So I got a bunch of things in my system tray waiting to update themselves. So if it's not in my repository, I don't use it. How can you live, Ronin? Easy. So, number 1, number 3, installing a distro. And at this point, I've installed probably the top 20, top 30 distros, and then some beyond that. If it doesn't have a graphical installer, you're just making life hard on yourself. And if it's not using Calamares, the Calamares installer is great because you can pick a partition. You can already have your drive partition. You can say, put it right here. You can graphically pick it and say, put it right there. It's not so easy the other way. You got to know the name and all that other stuff. Now, I told you I did that on Arch. On Arch, it said, I'll let you put it one place, and I can't be responsible. And it worked for me. Actually didn't. It blew up my CachyOS. Had to reinstall CachyOS, but it all worked out. So I have a laptop, the G14 Zephyrus, that has 5 Arch-based distros. And how was I going to know that was the best thing to do? They all have the Calamares installer, except for Arch. So it was easy to install them and make everything. I assumed Linux was like that. I assumed when I got into Linux that everything was always updated. What? So listen, this is going to be controversial. You are not so smart if you install Linux Mint. It's not better. It has a couple tools that greet you. You can change your color theme. You can do that with everything. You got to go one click. You can use the internet. And the same computer you've set up, you can go in the browser and you can tell the browser, hey, can you find what I need to do here? Number 4. It's going to be hard. I keep forgetting. I'm old, YouTube. I don't remember. Number 4. I forgot it. Sorry, YouTube. So, I'm going to tell you this. Figure out what desktop environment you want to use. That's KDE, GNOME. Anything else, you're not going to be happy. Why aren't you going to be happy? There's a thing called X11 and Wayland. Wayland lets you have fractional display scaling. On a big monitor, that helps. Maybe if I had a TV screen and it was 4K and I go 200%, it would work. But on a standard 1080p, it's too much. You need fractional, right? So that's the first off. Maybe there's some other things. I watched one video that was saying Wayland lags in your whatever. Roxy says whatever. So number one thing, right? You're leaving Windows and you're going to come to Linux. And number two, it has to have Calamares as a installer, because most of you are not going to heed my advice. You're going to dual boot. And you want Calamares to put that new partition somewhere. And on the way to the races, YouTube, one of my computers, I had taken the drive that was an old data drive, and for whatever reason, I didn't format it as GPT. Maybe it came not as GPT. I didn't know. Maybe I didn't know what the difference of GPT. But GPT allows you to have like 128 primary partitions. The other old one doesn't. It only lets you have 4. So I ran into that as I'm trying to make this other computer like my G14. The Alienware 13 couldn't do it. Then I had to format the disk and then it was a big pain in the butt. I eventually got Debian Testing to get installed, but you have to have the SHA-25 code to put in there because it won't even let you load it unless you put the code in there. So eventually on the other PC, I ended up putting Cachy back on it, and then I had one other partition. I'm going to put Tumbleweed. KDE has this annoying thing in it. Basically, nothing works. Basically, there's no free work, right? You're going to have to do something. Tumbleweed runs with KWallet, and KWallet won't even let you, if you don't have it set up, it won't let you talk to it, right? The thing is, you got to cancel KWallet. You got to make a password for it and then go into KWallet and cancel it and then put the password you put in there. So I've had a rough way to go on all of this stuff, making it work. I am reluctant to say you should do this or you should do that. I'm trying to just give you information. But I see a lot of people that are content creators and that are in the Linux space. They don't mind telling you what their top 3 picks are. They don't use the stuff. Anyone that puts it in, and I've done this, anyone that puts it in a virtual machine, it's not the same as installing it. And how much of a Linux expert are you to recommend something if you can't install multiple distributions on your PC? To have things automatically come up at boot. Yes, if you make everything all fit in one drive, right? So let's think about it. I'm going to make everything fit in one drive. So your Steam's on there, all your Steam games. You don't have a separate drive for your Steam games. So you can keep those so you can look at them other ways. So you can access them from a different partition. What if you want to change your partition? Then you, right? But that means then you know you have to edit your fstab. And you have to know how to do that. I've done it, and here's the point. I did it on 5 distros on the same machine. It works flawlessly. But you've got to learn to do it. You're coming from Windows, and you Linux old heads, you already know all this. If you're coming from Windows, right, you should just install it Linux and not keep up with Windows anymore. I can't really think. Why should you run Windows? I use Adobe stuff, then use Wine to run it, right? Learn how to do that, or make one of those Winboat kind of things, a container to do it. I'm not a real big fan of container. That's what I was going to tell you. So one of the solutions for this GNOME Mint problem is I said, just make a Flatpak. Just install as a Flatpak. When I go to install, I kind of alluded to this. When I go to install and I have all these different Flatpaks, they don't all update at the same time. They're like little containers each spot. You're right back into Windows. Then you're exactly like Windows. The Windows installs, and then I got to install all the apps. We're getting away from Windows, people. We're getting away from Windows and that whole paradigm. Now, most of you are going to get on Linux and then use Google products, and it's okay because I do that too. Then you're going to use something like LibreWolf, which is going to hide your stuff. And then you might use a VPN, not Necesito, but you might try to do some security kind of things where you kind of abstract yourself a little bit. But all that being said, move off Windows is the first main thing. And I went to my AI thing and I said, can I make Windows? Yeah, you could make Windows. One time you could make it solid where it would kill all the telemetry and it would work. What about when you have to update? What about security patches? Then you got to do this big stepping through. It's not worth it. Now, 5 years ago, when you couldn't play every game in the world or whatever, okay, I understand. I was on Windows. If you're on Windows, please get off as soon as possible. You could do Fedora, but don't, because I've tried to install it. Fedora has a thing called, whatever it's called, begins with an A. It's a pain in the butt, their installer. CachyOS. Even between, like I said, I installed Debian Testing, which is closer to roll and release. Pain in the butt install. Once it got installed, it was great. Looked fine. I reinstalled openSUSE, Tumbleweed, and ran into that KWallet thing. You don't have that problem with CachyOS. You might have the KDE thing. It's easy to fix that. Again, I want to say, why aren't you using Ubuntu, Mint, or anything else? It's frozen in 2024. Maybe it gets updated this year in August. Then it'll be fresh, but it's locked in there. Why would you want older software? Why wouldn't you want all the new? I don't want it to break. And then I looked up, what are the times that Arch broke? And there's like 3 times in the past 5 years that it broke big time. And I went to run VirtualBox. It's broken now. The patch for usually a week after they do an update, then they patch it. So VirtualBox, and it's like what kernel you're using, whatever. So it's going to happen. Windows is going to happen where it just locks you out. It won't update. It won't turn on. You blue screened it. All this stuff. They're computers, but the long-term stability of those are for companies. So if you're a company, you don't need every new feature. I want something that's going to be bulletproof in it. I just want security patches. I don't want to update the kernel. I just want to run my shit so it runs. Right, that's why some people still use OS2 or derivative OS2. That's why some people have legacy programs. That's why some people use COBOL. They have to program COBOL or Fortran or whatever because of legacy kind of things. You're not a business. You're a person. You want to surf the internet. You might want to play some games. But yes, you're going to have to learn something new. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm using my iPad as my lighting thing today. That's why I may be a little bit more orange than normal. And it's not a preference. Just the lights are red because I was a sailor. They have red light. It's the whole thing. It's all contiguous. All right, so I'm going to throw up some pictures. I'll throw up some calamari pictures. I will throw up some imaging around this. But I just recorded this, and then I'm going to build a video around it. So hopefully I didn't go on too long. I don't want old software. I want to be able to load it easy, and I want it to always be updated. And I don't want to have to update 7 different things. I want to hit update once, and I'm done. And that's what you do with CachyOS. And it's a little bit faster. And it's probably 10% faster. And that's a lot, but it didn't seem so like in the video. So I kind of just poo-pooed that. I guess it's a lot. All right, YouTube.